Hi Alex, what are you on about this fish feel pain business? What's the point? You are wasting your time. You would be much better off snorkeling in Fiji or Tahiti. Just think of those stunning coral gardens teeming with life, and all those incredible colors. And if in Tahiti, think of all the nice Bordeaux wines, and the Polynesian beauties dancing for you. Instead, you bother with activist scientists and philosophers. And why stress yourself out with a video production? Nobody is going to watch. Alex, are you out of your mind?
Cheers, my friend. You're probably right. I must be out of my mind. But nevertheless, let's go for it. Fish feel pain, the power of omissions. Part 1. Hi, thank you for tuning in and your interest. Let's start at the very beginning, the Big Bang, or if you prefer, Adam and Eve. I don't know whether they went fishing, but I do know that ever since the dawn of time, fish and fishing were associated with positive values in all human cultures. Fish symbolize, among other things, fertility, health, wealth, and wisdom, like in the Irish salmon of wisdom. I think the Irish got it right. No fish, no wisdom, and no economy either. Today, the livelihood of 3 billion people, 3 billion, depends on fish and fishing. Before I take the plunge into the fish feel pain debate, two questions need to be answered. The first one is the obvious one. Why? Why is this fish feel pain issue so important? Animal rights is the answer. The animal rights movement drives the debate about fish pain, and the animal rights movement wants to end the use of animals, be it for food, companionship, or work, like police dogs or guide dogs. And in the end of use included are fish and fishing. And the purpose of all this is a better, just, and cruelty-free world. The world's leading expert on that kind of progress is, of course, Peter Singer. And his take on fish and fishing is straightforward. If fish can feel pain and suffer, we should, quote, stop catching them and eating them, unquote. Easy peasy. Oh, perfect. Say 3 billion people and happily comply and vanish just like that to make Peter Singer's world a better place. The second question is, what is pain? What is it we are talking about? The definition of pain most scientists go by is the one given by the International Association for the Study of Pain. And they define the pain as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with tissue damage. They add two very important points. The first one is pain is always a personal experience. And the second point is nociception and pain are not equal. Nociception does not equal pain. Now, nociception and nociceptors are the keys to understanding the fish feel pain debate. So, what are nociceptors? Nociceptors are the sensory neurons in your skin, and they pick up injury, or rather the information about injury, and send it up the spinal cord to the brain where the big ouch is produced. There are two types of these nociceptors: A nociceptors and C nociceptors. A nociceptors are the frontline guys. They pick up the negative impact immediately and as quick as lightning send it up through the system, the spinal cord, the brain, and that triggers off the reflex to draw away your hand, like when you burn your hand on a hot plate. The C nociceptors later on confirmed the bad news by sustained and intense pain. Now, here is an interesting angle on these nociceptors. Consider the following. A normal human being has 80% of these C nociceptors. Patients suffering from CIP, that is, patients suffering from pain insensitivity, have 24% or less of these nociceptors. Rainbow trout have 4% of these nociceptors, of the C nociceptors. So 24% or less means pain insensitivity in humans. Now, that would seem to tell you a story, wouldn't it? But no. In a remarkable and most sensational, in a way, video, Phil Halper and a team of scientists claim to have found evidence that fish do feel pain. Not just any evidence, they have found decisive new evidence that fish feel pain. And this new decisive evidence concerns the brain, which is why I also focus on the brainworks. Let's get into the brainworks then. Here it is, the human brain. Well, kind of. Up there, the wrinkly bit, that is the neocortex or cortex, and below it are the subcortical regions. Scientists have identified over 200 different regions up there in the wrinkly bit, in the cortex, and all of these regions have specific functions, and some of these regions cooperate or interconnect in order to process the nociceptive signals and process them and then produce pain, the big ouch. It is important to understand that the brain is fluid. It is literally fluid. It is 90% water. So if you drink water, you dilute yourself. You're adding fuel to the flames. Again, there are no borders in the brain. The brain is a living, dynamic, fluid entity. So what's the big story by Phil Halper and his team? They found a brain without those regions in the neocortex, presumed to be in charge of producing pain in humans. A rare disease has caused extensive damage to the poor patient's brain, but the poor patient could still feel pain. So, from this situation, Halper and his team conclude that fish feel pain too, because they too lack those regions. In other words, the key piece of evidence resides not in the fish brain, but in the human brain. That in turn makes out of the fish a miniature human being, at least as far as the brain is concerned. So I would be deeply, deeply offended if I was a fish and being told that my brain is equal to a damaged human brain. No way! My fish brain is perfect. My fish brain is perfectly adapted to the needs and challenges out there. The cortical regions in the human brain have the ability to recover. If regions A cannot process the nociceptive input anymore, regions B can take over the job. What Halper and his team seem to suggest is that in the damaged brain, in the damaged human brain, the subcortical regions take over the job of pain production. And because the subcortical human regions resemble the fish brain, or the other way around, fish feel pain. Again, or rather fish are able to feel pain. Again, the key piece of evidence resides in the human brain and not in the fish brain. Now, this makes out of the tiny fish brain a super brain, light years ahead of ours, because with 4%, remember the nociceptor density, with 4% information input, it produces the same result as with 80% information input and a huge brain. If ever you wanted an example of inefficiency, it's the human brain. Of course, I speak only for myself. Let's have a quick look at the proportions. If the human brain was linear, the straight line would be the size of the brain, and the dotted elliptic bit there, that could be the neocortex, and that tiny dot down there, that is the size of the fish brain. And actually it's far too big in proportion, but if it was really in proportion, you wouldn't see it there at all. I am not buying, I'm definitely not buying into the line of argument which equates the damaged human brain to the fish brain, not least because it's comparing apples to oysters. Now, hold it. I might have gotten it all wrong, and I probably have distorted their case beyond recognition. No doubt I have done that, but I'm certainly not far off the mark if I say that the blatant omissions by Phil Halper and his team actually completely devalued their case. So, what are their omissions? The first omission is that they omit to mention nociceptor density. Remember the 80% and the 4%. Implicitly, tacitly, or intentionally, they suggest that nociceptor density in fish is the same as it is in humans. Such is clearly not the case. The second omission is, or concerns, fish species. They omit to mention that there are over 30,000 fish species out there, and only a handful of them have been researched into. And there are fish out there that have no nociceptors at all. their generic claim, fish feel pain, is plainly wrong, false, not true. It doesn't correspond to anything at all there. Their third omission is that they omit to define pain. They never explain what they mean by pain, and all along in their contribution the subtext is human pain equals fish pain. Such is clearly not the case. Human pain does not equal fish pain. It's a meaningless statement because, again, the 30,000 species, fish pain as a generic claim doesn't make any sense at all.
Their generic claim, fish feel pain, is plain wrong, false, not true, hot air, and absolutely meaningless.
End of story. No way. They're perfectly happy with their case, and Phil Halper confidently concludes that fish do really feel pain. They do suffer. I think it's a more rational default position to say, for example, the jury is still out, or it's highly unlikely that fish feel pain and suffer, or that fish do not feel pain and suffer. All of these are more rational default positions. Let me add 2 points. The fish feel pain claim monopolizes considerations of fish welfare. To base fish welfare on the fish feel pain assumption is to base fish welfare on ignorance. But then fish pain is about animal rights and not about fish welfare. The second point is, let's assume fish feel pain. If we accept that, then we easily can accept that fish feel pleasure too. But again, we're running into the same problem. What is fish pleasure? What is it? And is it the same for all the 30,000 species? Again, the same problems. We don't know what it is like to be a rainbow trout. And I personally have no problem in admitting that I am not a rainbow trout. But then that might be a case of ignorance is bliss. I don't want you to suffer much longer, but I have to come back to the question, why is this fish feel pain business so important? As I mentioned at the beginning, animal rights is the driving force behind the fish feel pain debate, and fish pain is excellent news for the animal rights movement and its leaders. And it doesn't come as any surprise that the first person latching onto that video by Phil Halper and his team was none other than Peter Singer. There you are. Fish feel pain. Fantastic news. And it shows you the power of omissions. By omitting vital information from their case, Halper and his team succeed in presenting a convincing case for fish pain. If, on the other hand, you take into account their omissions, their case collapses in no time at all. And the same goes for their supportive evidence, because that supportive evidence is subject to the same omissions. Nevertheless, in part 2, I'm going to have a look at the supportive evidence because there are some seriously interesting angles there. That's all for today.
Wait a minute, Alex. Wait a minute. Not so fast. Haven't you forgotten something?
What's that? Tell me.
The ad, man. The ad for your excellent, brilliant, unique, phenomenal, breathtaking, superb, fine, and absolutely comprehensive book.
Yes. Thank you. Well, you did that for me now, the advertising. But in fact, if you want to dig deeper, this is your best bet. And that's definitely all for today. I hope to see you soon in part 2. Cheers!